I walked into the store I owned, and they looked at me like I was about to rob the place. It wasn't the first time, but this time, he'd hit different. The store was mine. My name was on the deed. My money built the marble floors. I had personally chosen the spotlight angles above the glass displays. Every gemstone, every diamond, every security camera in that place, I paid for it. But when I walked in wearing joggers and a plain black tee, with my locks pulled into a tight bun, the sales staff stiffened. Then the manager approached. She didn't smile, didn't greet me, just positioned herself between me and the nearest case like she was guarding a vault. "Can I help you with something, sir?" Her tone was acidic. "I'm good. Thanks," I said calmly, just browsing. "Sir, we don't allow casual viewing. These are high-value items." Mouth clenched. I stayed silent. She motioned to a younger white woman behind the counter, whispered something. That woman laughed. "Loud enough? You sure you're in the right place?" The manager asked again. Louder now. The security guard whom I hired glanced toward us, but said nothing. I nodded. "Yeah, I'm exactly where I need to be." They didn't know who I was, but in exactly 7 minutes, they'd be begging to take it all back. What they didn't realize is that I don't raise my voice. I raise the stakes. And before that clock hit 12:07, they'd learn what happens when you insult the man who signs your paycheck. This was going to be fun. I wasn't always the guy who owned luxury retail stores. I grew up in East Detroit. I raised by my grandmother. After my mom passed when I was 7, we lived in a tiny one-bedroom duplex where heat in the winter was a coin toss. And dinner often came from whatever grandma could stretch out of canned beans and frozen rice. She was the one who taught me to shine shoes, read contracts, and count cash like it was oxygen. "Derek," she'd say, "money don't make you better, but knowing who you are while you earn it, that's real power." I held on to that. In school, I was invisible, not the top of the class, not the worst, just another quiet black kid who dressed clean but never knew. People didn't expect much from me, and I learned early how useful that could be. I worked 2 jobs through college, started flipping sneakers online, and by 26, I had my first LLC. By 30, I was running 3 niche e-commerce brands: watches, fragrance, and custom gold accessories. When the pandemic hit and physical stores shut down, mine grew. People still wanted to feel important, to celebrate moments, to show off, and I gave them the chance to do it with class without breaking their banks. That's when I made the jump. I bought my first brick-and-mortar jewelry store, formerly an upscale franchise downtown. It was flailing, but I knew why. The experience sucked. The staff were cold. The layout was sterile. There was no soul. I gutted it, rebranded everything, restocked it with rare stone designers and independent black-owned lines. I gave it flavor, history, community, and the business exploded. We didn't just serve people, we saw them. We made space for mothers who wanted to honor their daughters, for couples celebrating anniversaries, for new grads investing in their first real timepiece. I trained my staff to treat everyone like they belonged. Suits, hoodies, scrubs, doesn't matter. But not everyone listened. I couldn't watch every shift. I had regional managers. I had HR reps. I had internal surveys. I trusted people to follow the culture we built, to uphold the values. I spent years nurturing, but sometimes entitlement creeps in quietly, especially when leadership forgets what humility feels like. The store today, this one was one of our top performing locations. Polished, high profile, right in the heart of downtown Atlanta. Spenders came in. Celebrities, atletas, and regular folks with deep stories and big dreams. I hadn't visited it in months. Too much travel, too many meetings. I was working on a national rollout thinking, big picture. But then I got a handwritten letter from a college student named Chelsea who said she walked into our store last week with her girlfriend to look for promise rings and left in tears. They made us feel like we were shoplifters. We weren't even in there 5 minutes. I read it 3 times. Then I checked the security footage. Sure enough, same manager, same tone, same dismissiveness. So I made a quiet decision. I'd walk in, unannounced, no warning, no security, just me, in plain clothes, on a regular Thursday, to see how my people were really being treated when no one important was watching. Turns out, they still didn't know who to look out for, and they were about to learn the hard way. The thing about walking into your own store and getting disrespected is, you start to notice everything. The air felt tense from the jump. I had barely crossed the threshold when the manager zeroed in on me. She was mid-40s, stiff shoulders, slick bun, blazer a size too tight. Her name tag read Trina, store manager, and her eyes said one thing loud and clear. You don't belong here. She didn't greet me, didn't say welcome or can I help you. She just stepped forward and planted herself right in front of the ring cases like she was defending national treasure. Can I help you with something, sir? She asked again, with that tight smile women wear when they're half a breath from calling security. I kept my voice calm, just browsing. Well, this isn't a showroom. These are one-of-a-kind pieces. We don't allow people to handle items without a purchase intent. I raised an eyebrow. So you assume I'm not here to buy? Her eyes flicked down at my outfit gray joggers. Black tee. Sneakers a little worn. I could almost hear her assessment out loud. No Rolex. No designer logos. No flash. No reason. In her mind, for me to be in that store, she didn't respond. I just motioned to the associate behind the counter. Then came the whisper. Then the laugh. You sure you're in the right place? She asked again. Now loud enough for the 2 customers across the room to glance over. I looked her dead in the eye. I built this place for people like you to feel small around the wrong ones. She blinked. Excuse me. I let out a breath. Nothing. Just thought that glass looked dirty. I nodded toward the display. Wouldn't want your diamonds losing their shine. The younger associate, maybe 22. Blonde ponytail. Leaned on the counter and muttered. We can't just let anyone touch things. This isn't a swap meet. My heart rate didn't budge, but something behind my ribs tightened. This is what my customers have been dealing with. I glanced to the corner where the security guard stood. He looked at me, then away. No help. Then Trina crossed the line. I'm gonna ask you to leave if you're not gonna make a purchase. I smiled, not with my mouth, with my eyes. I am making a purchase. She scoffed. Of what? Time? She folded her arms. Sir, 7 minutes. I said, checking the clock behind the register. That's all I need. She stepped back. You have 5 before I call mall security. I gave her a nod. Perfect. You'll want them here. At this point, a man in a navy suit walked in mid-30s. Bluetooth in his ear. He looked confused. I saw the tension and whispered to the blonde associate. Everything okay? She nodded. Just some guy refusing to leave. Itili mi hell? Watching them write my story for me in real time. That's when I knew. This wasn't a one-time thing. This was culture. Rot. Arrogance wrapped in customer service uniforms. And it was happening in my house. I had seen enough. I stepped toward the display. Slowly. Deliberately. I'll be taking over from here. I said. Trina squinted. Taking over what? I pulled out my wallet. From the back, I slid out a matte black business card. The kind you only get once. The kind that isn't printed, it's engraved. I laid it gently on the glass counter between us. Her eyes dropped. She read it. Derek J. Walker, founder, CEO, Locs Holdings. Her face froze. I leaned in slightly. You've got 3 minutes left. Use them wisely. I could have ended it right then and there. Said one word. Made one phone call. And Trina would have been gone before the next customer walked in. But I didn't. Not because I was unsure what to do, but because I needed to be sure of what was really going on. This wasn't about me. Not anymore. If I, the CEO, could walk in unnoticed and get treated like a second-class citizen, what did that say about how they treated everyone else? So I let it play out. I didn't flash my title. Didn't raise my voice. I stood there, silent, watching, cataloging every glance, every snicker. Every time someone made a judgment, based on my skin and my outfit, rather than my worth. The blonde associate whispered again behind the counter. The guy in the Navy suit made a passive comment about keeping an eye on certain shoppers. Trina pretended to check inventory on the tablet while never letting me out of her periphery. And then a woman walked in, mid-30s, brown-skinned like mine, tight curls, nurse scrubs, a tired posture. She looked overwhelmed, but hopeful. She smiled tentatively as she approached the same counter I'd been chased away from. I'm here to pick up a necklace, she said. Order for Latrice Caldwell. Trina didn't even look up. Can you wait a moment? Mom, we're dealing with something right now. Sure. The woman replied quietly. Stepping back, she waited 5 full minutes. No one acknowledged her. No one brought out her order. She stood there, fingers twisted in her lanyard, glancing around like she didn't want to cause a scene. I felt it. That old, bitter heat behind my chest. The same kind I used to feel as a kid. Waiting in line at a corner store and watching the clerk follow me with his eyes, while smiling at the white kid behind me. Then it got worse. The guy in the Navy suit turned to the security guard and nodded in Latrice's direction. Hey, just keep an eye. All right? The guard didn't ask why. He just shifted position, like it was second nature. Like this is how they always do it. Latrice saw it. She clutched her bag tighter. Eyes dropped, shoulders curled. That moment broke something in me, because I built this brand to be the opposite of that. To be the place where people like my grandmother would feel safe. Where nurses like Latrice could celebrate themselves. Where folks didn't have to wear a $1,000 outfit just to be treated with dignity. And here it was riding under my feet. When Trina finally decided to help her, she didn't say a word. I just tossed a bag on the counter like she was handing over a mistake. No receipt. She said, "You're good." Latrice nodded. "Thank you." Then left with her head still down. She didn't even look at me as she walked past, but I saw the tightness in her jaw. I knew that look. That was the look of someone swallowing injustice just to get through the day. It was the same look I'd worn for years before I made it out. I checked the time. 12 minutes had passed. No one realized what was about to happen. Because in a place where people assume you're invisible, they never notice when you start watching. And when you're quiet long enough, your silence starts recording everything. I had seen enough. It was time. I've always believed the strongest person in any room is the one who doesn't have to prove it. That's why I stayed quiet. That's why I didn't raise my voice when Trina rolled her eyes and made me wait. That's why I didn't flinch when the younger associate whispered something about calling mall security. Because I knew something none of them did. I owned the floor they were standing on. Literally. I don't just own the brand Valor Lux, I own the building. The lease is under one of my holding companies. I approved every light fixture, every stone tile, every screw in that jewelry display they were leaning on. But more than that, I own the culture. Or I thought I did. When I started Valor Lux, it wasn't about bling or flexing. It was about giving people dignity, creating a luxury space that didn't exclude people, it invited them in, gave them pride, a sense of I belong here too. But clearly, that vision had drifted because somewhere between my boardroom presentations and leadership webinars, I lost track of the floor. And the floor right now was cracking. I kept playing the part a little longer. I asked a few casual questions. I asked to see a basic silver chain in the case. Trina refused. We don't handle merchandise without verified intent. She said, arms crossed. And frankly, you're making my staff uncomfortable. That was rich. I looked past her, directly at the blonde associate. What's your name? She blinked. Hannah. Hannah? I said, do you enjoy working here? She smirked. Sure. Why? I didn't answer. Just made a mental note. Then I turned to the security guard. Do you mind grabbing the district manager? Tell him Derek Walker's here. The man stiffened. Doom, sorry. District manager. Office upstairs. He's here today. I booked his flight myself. Now they were all confused. Trina narrowed her eyes. Who are you? I smiled, calm and slow. I'm the man whose initials are engraved on the vault key you're holding. She blinked. What? Check the side of your register drawer. I said, left corner, inside lip. She hesitated, but curiosity won. She opened the drawer, bent down, and looked. Her breath caught, because laser etched in the aluminum was a signature. DW, my signature, stamped during the last remodel. I stepped forward. You didn't recognize me in joggers and sneakers? Fine. That's on me. I dress down on Thursdays. Pause. But you've had 4 mandatory culture training sessions, 2 video messages from corporate, and you still don't recognize the founder of your company. She paled. Let me help you out. I pulled out my phone, opened our internal Valor Lux app, and tapped on the top-level admin dashboard. It flashed. Derek J. Walker, founder CEO, active session. Below it, the current store location, live feed, employee roster, and yes, Trina's name and access code. Everyone behind the counter fell silent. Even the security guard looked like he wanted to melt into the wall. I told you earlier. I said, I'm exactly where I need to be. And then I looked her in the eye. And in about 30 seconds, you don't build a multi-million-dollar brand by acting on impulse. You build it by being patient, by learning when to wait, and when to strike. So before I walked into that store, I made sure I wasn't coming in blind. I've been getting red flags for weeks, anonymous customer complaints, missed follow-ups, dropped sales numbers on days that didn't make sense. And that letter from the student couple, that was just the crack in the wall. I knew there was more behind it. So I did what any serious CEO does before he makes a move. I built a case. A week before I stepped foot in the store, I pulled access logs from our internal feedback system. I reviewed transaction histories from the last 2 months, especially those tagged as no sale or abandoned cart in store. Over 42% of the lost sales. Customers that matched a pattern: young, Black, Hispanic, dressed casually. Our same gender couples. People with money, but not the look. Then I tapped our regional manager, Marcus Loyal. Old school. Trusted. I want you to audit store '04 quietly. I told him, don't say a word to staff. I need footage. Voice logs. Mic'd up customer interactions. Marcus didn't even ask why. He just said, understood. He sent me daily clips. I watched every one. The patterns were unmistakable. Trina consistently ignored certain customers, delegated undesirable visitors to Hannah, or worse, flat out dismissed them. Security was more focused on profiling by vibe than watching for actual theft. And no one ever pushed back. Not once. Even the assistant manager. Andre, who I personally hired last year, had started to blend in. He laughed along, enabled the culture, lost his voice. I felt betrayed, but I didn't confront them then. I wanted to catch it in the act. I wanted to know that what I saw on tape wasn't just a bad day, or one employee. I needed to see it with my own eyes. That's why I walked in undercover. That's why I didn't stop them when they embarrassed me. That's why I waited until Trina's worst habits played out again in front of a real customer, Latrice Caldwell. I saw everything. I recorded everything. And now, as the silence spread through the room like a slow leak, I tapped my earpiece once. Marcus's voice came through, low and steady. "You ready? Go." I whispered. Within seconds, the lobby camera shifted. Our internal AI system flagged the session as a live audit trigger. The feed went straight to legal, HR, and compliance automated. Secure. Dimestampet. Marcus entered the store from the rear hallway, holding a slim laptop and wearing his district badge. Trina saw him and froze. "Marcus?" she asked, her voice shaking now. He didn't answer her. Instead, he walked straight to the counter, opened the laptop, and turned it toward me. On screen was a live breakdown of the last 30 days. Logged complaints, recorded phrases from our voice capture registers, keyword breakdowns, like "can't afford." Watch this one. Probably not serious. And next to every phrase, names, dates, time codes, proof. I looked up at Trina, whose face had gone sheet white. "You told me I made your staff uncomfortable." I said quietly, "But the truth is, you've been making our customers feel unwelcome for months." She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. "You forgot something important." I added, "Luxury isn't about price tags. It's about how people feel when they walk through that door." Then I turned to Hannah. "You still feel like you're in the right job?" She stared at the floor, and I nodded. Didn't think so. The store was dead silent. No jazz music. No scripted greetings. No hollow compliments from behind the glass. Just the sound of Marcus quietly typing. The flick of a laptop screen rotating to face the room. And Trina's hands clasped so tightly her knuckles turned white, finally realizing the performance was over. This wasn't a training. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was Judgment Day. I stepped back, folded my arms, and gave them the moment to feel it. "I want every employee on shift to step forward." I said clearly, "Right here." Now, 3 associates moved awkwardly into view: Hannah, the suit guy, and Andre from the back office. The security guard hesitated, then joined. Trina remained frozen. I looked her way. "You too." She stepped forward, eyes darting to Marcus like she expected him to save her. He didn't. I turned to face them all, voice low but sharp. "You don't work for a jewelry store. You work for a brand built on dignity. A place I created so people wouldn't have to wear wealth to feel respected. How's it? But you made that place ugly. You turned it into a gate. You policed worth with your eyes, not your ears." And then I pulled out the printed transcripts, labeled, color-coded, highlighted. This is every phrase captured on store audio in the past 30 days. Want to know the top 3? I read them aloud. They can't afford this. Watch the one in the hoodie. Let's move them out fast. My voice didn't rise, but the weight behind each word hit like bricks. These phrases weren't one-offs. I continue. They were habits, spoken in front of children, grandparents, veterans, nurses, everyday people. People who deserve better than this store ever gave them. The younger customers browsing nearby were now frozen in place, quietly listening. Eyes wide, I let the silence hang. Then I looked at Hannah. Do you recognize that second phrase? Her mouth open, then closed. Nothing. I turned to Andre. How many times did you laugh when she said things like that? Andre stared at the floor. I nodded. Silence is complicity. Then I faced Trina. You're the manager. The culture here is yours. And that culture ends now. She shook her head slightly. Mr. Walker, I didn't mean. I don't need meaning. I interrupted. I need impact. And your impact, it's toxic. I pulled out a plain manila envelope from my satchel. Inside, separation letters. Already signed. Trina Adams, Hannah Lopez, Andra Grace. Your employment with Valor Lux is terminated effective immediately. You will be escorted out of this location within the next 15 minutes. Shock. Gasps. A hand flew to a mouth. I turned to Marcus. Clear their access badges. Reset all pins. Aller legal. Then to security. Escort him out. Professionally. No drama. The guard, still stunned, nodded and began moving. But Trina tried again. Voice cracking. I raised a hand. You had your chance to treat strangers like people, and you failed. Spectacularly. As the three were led away, customers turned to watch. Nobody smiled. Nobody spoke. Then a voice cut through the quiet. Sir. It was Latrice's the nurse from earlier. She had stepped back into the store. Eyes wide. I smiled gently. You're safe now. I told her, finish your visit. On the house, she stared at me. You did all that for us. I nodded. For everyone who was ever treated like less, just because someone forgot who they were serving. By the time the doors closed behind Trina and the others, the energy inside the store had shifted completely. The silence wasn't awkward anymore. It was cleansing. I could feel it in the posture of the customers who remained shoulders relaxed. Bros unfaroed. Latrice no longer looked like she wanted to disappear. Even the security guard exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for months. But this wasn't the end. This was just the beginning of setting things right. I turned to the remaining Team 2 junior staff members, the inventory specialist, and Marcus, all still watching me, waiting to see what kind of CEO I really was. I spoke evenly. Let me be clear. This is not about perfection. It's about principle. I walked toward the front counter, where my business card still sat on the glass like a drop weapon. We don't terminate people for being imperfect. We terminate people who abuse the privilege of power. Then I tapped the side of the display, where a hidden intercom linked to our HR department lay embedded. Patch me through. I told Marcus. À moment laté. The head of people and culture answered. Yes. Mr. Walker. File formal misconduct reports for Trina Adams, Hannah Lopez, and André Grex. Référence au code 426. Begin documentation for permanent ineligibility across all Valor Lux locations. Yes. See ya. And notify legal. I added, the letter will include a non-disparagement clause, but they won't walk away with bonuses or severance. They forfeited that the moment they weaponize this brand against the people we serve. The staff visibly swallowed. Even Marcus blinked. Good. Let them feel the weight of that standard. Not from fear, but from responsibility. I turned to the younger associate, a tall guy named Malik, who had barely spoken all shift. You good? I asked. He nodded. Eyes wide. I didn't know you were coming today. I smiled. That's the point. Then I walked over to the jewelry vault, pulled out the original Valor Lux values card we printed 5 years ago. It was framed. tucked behind the main counter. I held it up. This says respect before profit. It's not a slogan. It's a requirement. Then I set it on the counter, turned to the floor, and addressed the customers still present. To everyone who witnessed what happened today, I want you to know something. This brand does not protect prejudice. This brand was built to fight it. Latrice smiled softly. So did the older couple near the back. One woman actually clapped. Another quietly whispered, "It's about damn time." Marcus approached me, clipboard in hand. "Sir, do you want me to file a report to corporate and PR?" I shook my head. "Don't bother. I'll write it myself." I stepped into the office for a moment and sent out a company-wide internal memo to every store, every district lead, and every department head, effective immediately. Store-level leadership across all Valor Lux locations will undergo mandatory recertification in equity-based service training. A new integrity advisory panel will be formed by a rotating panel of frontline employees from every demographic. We will also introduce a walk-in watch list, not for customers, but for our managers. Any leader flagged twice in 90 days for customer discrimination will face investigation and review. No exceptions. And finally, I ended the memo with, we do not gate luxury by skin, income, age, or clothing. We gate it by character. And if you don't have that, there's no room for you here. I hit send. The wave started immediately Slack messages, email pings, shocked responses. But I didn't care, because this wasn't about controlling the narrative. It was about correcting it. By the next morning, the footage had made its way around the company. I didn't leak it. Someone on the floor must have recorded the moment Trina was escorted out. A 40-second clip with shaky hands and clean audio. You're the manager. The culture here is yours. And that culture ends now. It hit the employee forums first, then the regional group chats, then someone posted it to TikTok with the caption, "When the CEO walks in undercover and exposes every fake smile in the building." Overnight, it had 600. Zero views. But that wasn't the win. The win was in my inbox. The next morning, dozens of emails from employees across the country. "I've worked here for 2 years and never felt this proud. Thank you for reminding us what Valor Lux is supposed to be. I was going to quit last week. Now I want to stay and help fix it. We had broken something. Yes, but now we could build it back better." And I knew exactly where to start. I went back to the store that same week. No disguise. No quiet entrance. This time, I walked through the front doors wearing my charcoal gray suit, Valor Lux pin on my lapel, and a calm smile on my face. The new team greeted me like I was family. Latrice was there too this time. Not as a customer, but as a new hire. She stood behind the counter, radiant in the new employee uniform. Her name badge freshly printed. Latrice Caldwell, client concierge. I figured if y'all was serious about change. She said, "You'd need someone who remembers what it's like to be ignored." I smiled. "We need 100 more like you." She leaned in slightly. I told my mom. She cried. She never thought I'd work somewhere like this. "You're not just working." I told her, "You're rebuilding." In the weeks that followed, we rolled out a full culture audit. No pay fluff. Not corporate spin. Real change. Every manager now underwent a monthly peer review anonymous. Direct to HQ. Tips and bonuses were now tied to kindness ratings and customer feedback, not just sales numbers. And every Friday, we spotlighted one store for acts of quiet service employees who helped without needing recognition. Guess who won the first week? Malik, the quiet young man who watched everything unfold that day. Turns out he'd been using his lunch breaks to teach elderly customers how to shop online when they were too nervous to ask. We promoted him to assistant manager. He cried. I didn't expect that. But it reminded me not everyone needs a raise to feel seen. Sometimes they just need someone to see them. And as for me, I still show up unannounced sometimes. Still walk in with old sneakers and a hoodie, just to see who's paying attention. But now, I'm not the only one watching. We've empowered the right people. The ones who serve with empathy, who protect the brand by protecting its spirit. And the truth is, this incident didn't break us. It clarified us. We're not just selling gold and stones anymore. We're building a standard, and we won't apologize for expecting the people who wear our logo to live up to it. I didn't fire them because they were rude to me. I fired them because they forgot what we stand for. They looked me in the eye. I saw nothing of value and decided I wasn't worth their time. But I'm not the one who paid the real price. They lost a chance to grow in a place built for transformation. They lost the privilege of serving people like Latrice, like Malik. It's like the thousands who walk through our doors, not looking for diamonds, but for dignity. You see, this story isn't about a CEO going undercover. It's about what happens when silence turns into a spotlight. When power's quiet but absolute. When you realize that being underestimated is your greatest weapon. I didn't expose them because I wanted revenge. I exposed them because I wanted everyone watching to know. You don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to scream to take back your space. And when someone tries to write you off before they know your name, you can still turn the page and own the whole damn book. So no, I didn't do this for me. I did this for the next young black man who walks into a luxury store in joggers and gets told he's in the wrong place. Because maybe now, he won't be. And if he is, someone's gonna remember this story.